ready.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Woo! Listen, guys, today has been a day. If you follow me, then you know that I have, I was joking today with our guest that all my life I had to fight. I had to fight for everything today. My wine, which was gifted to me by our wonderful host, of the Buy, Sip, Repeat. I did a wine tasting with her this morning, but FedEx was a mess getting it delivered to me. So the wine tasting was at noon. FedEx delivered my wine, and this is no exaggeration, at 11:57. So that was this morning. I had some sound issues trying to get on, so we're a little bit late getting started today. So I just wanted to say thank you guys for being so very patient while we got on today. I am going to just share this really quickly. I want to make sure that that our community who are in our private Facebook group, the Financial Visionary Lounge, get to see this broadcast. So I'm going to share it with them. And if you feel like, I don't know if you've caught the subject matter of this conversation, but if you feel like it would benefit somebody you know, please share it with them as well. Share it to your page directly. So I am going to do that, and then I'm going to share it to my page, and then I'm going to jump in here. One of these days, I'm going to find a way more efficient way of doing this. But today is not that day. I'm a work in progress. And I depend on my child for most of my technical support, and she's not here today. So one last thing. I don't know if you guys have this, but I have like a family chat, and every Sunday they're like, text me the link. So I got to make sure I drop that in the chat too. Okay. Everyone, thank you and welcome to Sip and Save Sunday, where we are normalizing conversations around money and discovering how we can use the power of talking about it to grow from and support each other so that we can step into the life we've been envisioning. If you joined us last week, then you have heard that we have officially launched our Fierce Vision podcast. And I just want to thank you for your support. I already got really great feedback, and I just want to shout y'all out for not wasting time and subscribing. If you're new and you'd like to subscribe, I'd like to welcome and encourage you to take a minute to find the Fierce Vision podcast and subscribe. If you enjoy it, please do me a favor, comment, please leave a review so that people can find it. iTunes, Shop, Spotify, all those platforms, they reward you with reviews. And so the better review you give, the more they make it visible for other people to find me. So I appreciate that in advance. If you enjoy it, please comment and let me know what you enjoyed, and let me know if there's any topics that you want to talk about. Join the conversation. I'd like to talk to you too. I interview professionals on our show and on our podcast all the time, but I like to talk to everyday people because this conversation is really for everyday people. And so you can email me at podcast@youngrichruder.com or hello@youngrichruder.com. Or you can DM me. That works too. I'm always on social media, so I'm not hard to find. If you think you have a topic that you would like for me to unpack. Okay, now it is Sip and Save Sunday. So let me tell you what I am sipping on today. Okay, so before I forget, today I am drinking on a wine that was sent to me by a Black-owned wine distributor. A Black-owned wine distributor. That is a big deal. Her name is Angela Span of One Hope. And I was so excited to have a company reach out to me to be my first sponsor. So yes, this is no spend September, so I haven't had to spend anything on this, but to sponsor this episode and provide us with a free bottle of wine to taste. So I'm going to taste it with you guys today and let you know what I think about it. And it's not just because it's no spend September that I was excited to get this bottle for free. I was excited because, of course, this is a woman. She is a sister, more specifically, and the company that she is affiliated with, they actually donate to charities with every bottle sold. They donate, they pick a charity. Every bottle is associated with a charity. And she herself, as a distributor, also chooses another charity that she personally donates to. So a portion of her proceeds for the entire month of September, she chooses to donate to. So for this particular bottle, it is to help with hunger in America and child hunger specifically. And her personal charity is she is contributing to her own HBCU, her alma mater. I was really happy to be able to contribute 2 times through her company. So if she's somebody that you want to get connected with, by all means, I'll put her information in the comments so that you can find it. So thank you, Angela, again for getting me right and sponsoring this week's Sip and Save Sunday. If you are a wine distributor, by all means, send me a bottle. I'll taste it on here. Okay, so grab your drinks, even if it's just the water, and come into the room. Why am I getting a pop-up? Technology won't let me be great. Come into the room. We're about to jump into this conversation about mental health and money. This week is the 3rd week in our series about mental health and money. We talked about recovering from crisis mode with Dr. Berry in week 1. We talked about better communication, our listening skills, and being able to express when we can't hear you right now with Jamelia James. If you watch week 2, you know why I'm struggling with that. And I encourage you to check out both podcast episodes or both video replays, however you're absorbing this information right now. So leave a heart emoji if you have ever avoided something. I just want to know, before we get into this conversation, before I introduce our guest to you today, leave a heart emoji in the comments if you have ever avoided something. I just want to see how many of us have ever found ourselves putting something off for whatever reason. It could be personal, it could be financial, it could be anything. Stephanie gave us a heart. Shayna said, that's awesome. I am guessing she is talking about our free wine and our first official sponsor. She gave several hearts. Rachel gave some hearts. Okay, so I am not alone. A lot of us. Okay, this is what I thought. I thought that a lot of people would say that they have found themselves in this space before of avoiding some things. And so before we dig into this topic about avoidance, I want to call myself out. I often choose topics for this show because I have seen this show up in my own life. And I like being transparent with you so that in a moment of transparency, you guys feel more comfortable sharing your truths. So in my moment of transparency, I'd like to admit that I had been avoiding creating content for this show. And I don't know why it was stressing me out, but the idea of creating content, it doesn't, and I don't mean this particular episode in particular, but the show, it's kind of stressful for me. The big task, my head gets all into it and too many moving pieces. And I just was like avoiding doing this topic. And so I'm in this mastermind group of other financial coaches. It's about 100 of us in this group. And once a week, we do what we call like this power hour. And it's basically where we're sitting in Zoom in silence. In the beginning of the session, we kind of tell what we plan to work on. And then we sit in silence for the whole hour. And at the end of the hour, we talk about what we did. And the point of that is to give us some accountability to kind of, get things done. So we get into this mastermind and I'm sharing with the group. They're like, what are you going to work on today? And I was like, I'm working on my topic for this week and I'm talking about avoidance, but I've been avoiding, well, I start by saying I've been avoiding this topic, so I really wasn't sure what I was going to come in here to work on. And my topic for the week for my podcast is avoidance. And I instantly saw the irony. And me and the rest of the group, we started laughing, and I'm thinking, how ironic. I am about to share with you guys and have a conversation about avoidance, about me avoiding a topic. Like, it's just, we are all really doing it. And so I just wanted to be able to share that with you, to let you know that it's something that a lot of us struggle with. And so if you do, to not be embarrassed by it. It shows up for us in all different ways, and just own it. And so today, I wanted to say it's not uncommon for people to procrastinate on tasks that stress them out. And that's why most people I know, and I think I shared this the other week, in financial coaching, the way that people seem to deal with stress as it relates to finances is they either shut down and they don't address it at all, or they overcorrect and they take very reckless reactional action that can do more damage. But more often than not, I see people kind of just avoiding things. And so today I invited a licensed professional counselor, Sonia Johnson, to the show.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here.
I invited her to chat with me about why we avoid things so that we can start to improve our finances and our relationship with those things that are related to avoidance. So let me tell you a little bit about her. Sonia is the owner of Golden Bridges Mobile Counseling Services. Before she shifted into this career, she was a teacher and a guidance counselor for Plainfield Public Schools. So I'm sure she understands what parents are dealing with right now, trying to homeschool their kids. And I just want to say publicly, on behalf of myself and all of the parents watching, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for my kid. I'm sorry for myself as a kid. I have a whole new appreciation for the patience it takes to inspire so many personalities and learning styles and attitudes. I think my whole audience probably agrees that when the kids return to a normal school year, we will be happy to bring whatever supplies you ask for. If you ask me to personally provide you with a computer, an air conditioner, whatever it is that you need, we will happily provide it. This has been a challenge, and I would like to avoid this again. But just more about kind of like what you do. What I was taking a look at your website on Psychology Today, and what I noticed is that you use all the experiences that you have, even in your prior career, to continue to give back in your current career. You spent many years experiencing and servicing youth, families, and individuals in various ages, socioeconomical, religious, and cultural backgrounds who struggle with mental health and behavioral changes, and you welcome the opportunity to partner with clients to process and redirect their thoughts, their feelings, and their actions that are hindering them from optimal growth and personal autonomy. And so I know that meaningful conversations with you can bridge the gap between despair and contentment together. And I think that you believe everyone deserves to be their best self. That's what I gained from just looking at that professionally. Now, on a more personal note, I am going to stop calling her Sonia Johnson, because while she is a professional, she is also my auntie.
Oh, I didn't know if you were going to let the cat out of the bag or not. But
okay. Yes, and while it's really weird for me to call you Sonia Johnson. I had a hard time typing it out. It was just, I felt like I could hear my mom in the background. At a minimum, if we weren't family, saying, "You call her Miss Johnson, you call her," I don't know how to find you, so I got to call you by your first and your last name. Kimberly said, "You are simply amazing."
Oh, oh wow! Thank you so much,
Stephanie. Yes. We got the whole tribe on here. The whole family's on here today.
Yes. Because I can't hear everyone.
So I am going to. I've let the cat out of the bag. I always, want to express that it's important to me that we have these conversations from a very real and relatable perspective. So even though I have professionals on here, I want to make sure that everyone feels like it's a safe space to be honest. And that while you have a lot of professional insight that you'll provide for us today, this is a conversation that more people need to be having amongst their friends and amongst their families. So I've had my friends on the last couple of days, and I have my family on today, and I'm hoping that it can just demonstrate how much insight and how much, I don't know, growth that can occur just from having more honest conversations about some of the things that we're dealing with. So I'm going to jump right into it.
Sure.
What does avoidance look like, and where does it typically show up in our lives?
Well, avoidance looks like a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but it usually shows up in the form of procrastination, blaming others, quitting or giving up on a task or obligation, and making excuses. So, and like I said, it can show up in a lot of different ways, but it usually shows up also in the workplace, in relationships, and anywhere someone may be faced with a decision or task they feel is overwhelming or may cause feelings of discomfort if they're not ready to experience.
Okay.
You know, they want to hold off. They want to remain in denial. They want to, they just don't want to deal with whatever fears they feel or emotions that may come out of having to face whatever the task or decision is head on.
Got you. And you hit on something. I want to ruminate on that for like a minute, but I'm going to come back to it because I feel like it's an important little piece in that sentence that you gave. But before I go there, I'm curious because I mentioned in my earlier that in my prior interviews that the two most common responses to people experiencing financial stress are to shut down and to face to avoid facing the problem, or they take rash action, and which can be destructive. In your career, both as a counselor and as an educator, how often do you feel like avoidance is the default response to stress and anxiety triggers? Because like I'm sure there's other responses to stress and anxiety triggers, but how often do you feel like you're seeing avoidance be the reaction?
Okay, well, as an educator, I noticed avoidance in children, adolescents, and teens on a daily basis, probably like every other hour. I mean, it shows up as outward defiance to following rules, refusal to attempt or complete homework or classwork assignments, truancy, unnecessary trips to the bathroom, the nurse's office, and reluctance to participate in activities or attend events where they're not socially connected. I hear you. I see you laughing.
I'm laughing because I didn't even think about those early avoidance moments, but I remember taking a million trips to the nurse's office.
Oh, really?
And I don't know. I like learning, so I like school. But I feel like her name was Miss Clark. I loved Miss Clark. She was my Emerson nurse, and so I think I just like going to her class. But the bathroom, I was definitely avoiding something.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and so and when these things happen, they're usually seen as disciplinary issues. The kid is acting up. They need to be put in detention. But again, and then they're penalized with suspensions or other disciplinary actions or, penalties. But, and it's unfortunate because public school systems generally don't have the mental health staff to really sit down with these students to find out what is really going on underneath all of this. Because again, a lot of truancy occurs because maybe someone's being bullied, or maybe they don't have clean clothes to wear, or clothes that they feel are going to be acceptable with their peers. Classwork is not completed or homework isn't done because maybe they don't really understand and they're worried about people looking at them in a certain way or thinking that they're dumb or they're going to get in trouble and things like this because they don't understand the concepts that are being taught. So once again, they're avoiding actually having to face the fact that they may not understand a certain concept. And acting out, same thing. If I act out and get kicked out of class, at least I don't have to sit here and get called on and be embarrassed when I don't have the right answer.
Man, I didn't even intend to go here, but I've got like goosebumps about this.
Mm.
And I know a lot of parents who have struggled with so many different issues with their kids. Me personally, Jordan is brilliant, but I've had to deal with areas of what I identify as avoidance for those very issues, not wanting to, participate because she's afraid she'll get the answer wrong. And so rather than ask the question, she just acts out so she would get in trouble, little things like that. And or even just the idea that she doesn't want to take the bus, she avoids the bus. And I don't know if there are any issues with some of her peers on the bus. And there isn't enough help. The guidance counselors are overloaded, and I know they have entirely too many students per person. So even when you guys are so well intentioned to want to pour into all of us, it's just not physically possible. That's kind of how I ended up doing my first financial scholarship workshop when I was in high school, because when I was in high school, my peers weren't getting a bunch of scholarship information. I went to a different school and I was like, well, why not? And I realized that the load was insane. And so I asked if I could do a community workshop and give all the scholarship information I collected. But I just felt like, how unfair is it to all these kids to their problems could be easily solved, that they could address the issues they're avoiding if they had the right support system. And so I'm so glad you said that. Hopefully, there's some people in here, if they're currently frustrated with some of the things that they've been dealing with their kids, that it has given them something to kind of think about, to explore with their children. Like you said, the initial instinct for the schools a lot of times, and sometimes for us as parents, is to think you're just being disobedient. You're just being bad. It's an easy solution to what they're dealing with, as opposed to kind of digging to the root of why they feel that way.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of kids get labeled at an early age as troublemakers because of that. That's not really what's happening there. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what is so interesting about that labeling is that they begin to internalize it. So even when it could have been remedied, maybe initially it really wasn't a true behavioral issue. It becomes a sincere one when they have taken that on the identity that I am the bad kid, I am the troublemaker. And so now that if they find themselves in a place where they truly do have support, they don't know how to pull themselves out of it, because this is who they've been the whole time. Or new teachers in an entirely new school year have already decided that they're one way, and don't have an opportunity for a fresh start. My mom just jumped on here. Look at I'm so proud of my mommy.
Oh, hey, Sister Mary.
This is the first time she has been able to get on while we were actually
good to hear.
But this is y'all applaud my mom. This is an IT moment for her. She hasn't been avoiding these lives. She has just been struggling with the technology.
Yeah. Well, she knows. I'm sorry. She knows how to work that Marco Polo, though.
Yes, and if any of you guys are Marco Polo friends with my mom, you know why she said that. Okay, so let me ask you a question. What are the long-term consequences of avoiding important actions and conversations?
Well, the long-term consequences of avoidance will vary based on the action or conversations that needs to be dealt with. However, the longer one defers addressing anything of importance, the more difficult it will be to find the motivation and drive to get started, which again is the procrastination. Waiting too long could also mean the loss of a relationship, compounding interest, late fees, etc., missed opportunities, increased feelings of overwhelm and anxiety that could then turn into depression.
You are so many. Like, I feel like I need to bullet them all out. I wish I could, because I feel like it's a lot to miss. Don't worry, guys. I'm going to summarize this on my podcast, on my blog. So I want to make sure that you guys don't miss anything, but just kind of reflecting on my own life. I know that usually if I'm not taking action, it's usually a reflection, or with others and myself, when we're not taking action, it's usually more of a reflection of an emotion attached to what we're avoiding. And this is kind of like touching on what you said in the very, very beginning. Like typing a paper, for example, isn't physically hard for me. Like I can key letters, I can string a sentence together. What we're avoiding, or what I know that I'm avoiding, is that feeling of failure. That's my internal struggle with writing a paper. Is I'm thinking about not putting together the best work and then having to deal with that F. So rather than write the assignment, I just avoid it to avoid that pain of feeling like a failure. For my clients, a lot of times that's logging into their bank account to check their balance or to check their credit score, because it's a difficult, the actual logging in, they know their username and password. That task itself isn't hard, but the emotional impact of seeing that they've overdrawn their account again, or maybe they haven't overdrawn their account, but just seeing how little they get paid and how much it frustrates them that they aren't making more than they want to be. Those are the emotions that I feel like I'm observing people avoid. And so what can we do to figure out what emotions that we're attaching to the task? Like each emotion that we're experiencing are different. Like the reason why I want to avoid social settings and I'm shy, not the same reason that I don't want to write a paper. It's not, it's a different emotion that I'm dealing with, and it's a completely different emotion than, me telling a loved one that this relationship doesn't work anymore. Like it's a completely different emotion that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
One, identify the emotion, and how can we challenge that emotion so that we can take the step we need and want to take to get it done.
Okay, and before I answer that question, I wanted to go back to the previous question and give you my feedback in terms of what I've observed as a therapist, because it kind of goes along with what you were just explaining about the emotional part of it. So yeah, I've observed that clients and individuals presented with a dilemma that causes them to be or feel vulnerable. And vulnerability is a big piece of it. Avoidance is often the first response, because a lot of us don't really want to feel, or we're not comfortable with being vulnerable. Most people are uncomfortable with exposing or opening up to express, to expose the hurt, guilt, and shame that sometimes they're feeling behind some of these things, especially like you said, with financial issues. So the avoidance is there. And many people fear that by addressing the stressful or anxiety-provoking areas of their lives head on, will cause them to lose control. And when they do that, they'll unleash anger, sorrow, insecurities, things like that. I'm sorry, my dog. And another fear people have is that through this exposure that they'll be judged and be seen as weak or incompetent. So I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to put her on my lap. This happens during my
Hi, Genesis.
during my sessions as well. Hey, Jen, say hi to her. Okay, bye.
So cute. I'm sure my audience doesn't mind.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I like this. Is very formal. I have my sparkling water, by the way. Little fizz.
Yay!
Okay. So to answer your question, one of the best ways to begin the journey of self-reflection is to seek professional assistance from someone who's trained and licensed in mental and behavioral health. A trained professional will know how to use a variety of questioning techniques and strategies that lead to self-discovery and reveal contributing factors in maladaptive patterns of thinking and behaving, because that's the key. It's usually like maladaptive ways of thinking, because your thoughts always trigger your behavior eventually. And once revealed, the clinician will work with the client to create a treatment plan to reduce or eliminate those maladaptive thoughts and behaviors. But outside of therapy, if you can't get to therapy, or you're just not down with therapy, you just might want to begin journaling or participating in one of the many forms of meditation or mindfulness exercises that will help with becoming more centered and self-aware. So those are things that you can do on a daily basis without assistance.
So you kind of like tipped into something that I wanted to hit on. And so I'm going to kind of shift around the order I wanted to kind of hit on some of these nuggets in. And it's the meditation, right? And so I was reading that temporary avoidance can sometimes be okay. Like, and one of those occasions would be like to meditate because you need to regulate your emotions or exercise. It's that long-term, prolonged, avoidance that becomes the big issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I loved when I got to read that because it gave me permission to do the self-care, like, and not try to force, like sometimes we feel like we have to force ourselves through something that we really do need to take a break from. Like we really do kind of step back for a minute, but not forever. And it's okay to. So just to kind of shift around, what are some other things other than meditating and exercise that would be some good short term avoidances, the options that are okay, and like when is that okay? Like,
yeah, because if you're feeling overwhelmed, you're not going to be productive. So for some people, it may be to take a short nap, making a phone call to reconnect with a friend or family member, because we all know how rejuvenating that can be. Doing deep breathing exercises, any form of physical activity, listening to music, all of those things, whatever you find comfort in. Some people like to paint, and I know that's not, and you could do that just for 10 minutes. It doesn't mean you have to complete a whole, mural or or painting or whatever, but just whatever kind of helps you de-escalate and refocus. But whenever you do choose to do something, it should be relaxing and energizing, and it shouldn't become counterproductive to what goal you're originally trying to achieve. And if you are in fact a procrastinator, then yes, time management is important. So you have to set boundaries for yourself so that, okay, if I'm going to take a 15-minute nap, I'm going to set my alarm and I'm going to get up. I'm not going to just keep on, whatever. If I'm on the phone talking to my friend, I'm not going to, it's going to be 15 minutes and that's it. I'm off. So you do have to kind of, again, because otherwise then you're back in the procrastination phase again. But at least you've had a chance to kind of regroup and, kind of refocus and, de-escalate any kind of overwhelm that you might have been feeling.
You hit on something I didn't really think about, was if the task you're doing is counterproductive. So, and my thought went to, if I'm avoiding dealing, like, let's suppose somebody is dealing with financial stress and they choose retail therapy as their break. Like, I'm just going to go to the store to shop for a few, because that makes me feel good for a little while. Doesn't take very long. But while that might make them feel good, that activity in itself, no matter how long or short, is counterproductive to what's actually stressing them out. And so there's no amount of time that makes that okay. Like, that one is one of those.
Great example. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you've got me thinking about what are, whatever we're avoiding, what would be the counterproductive activity? Like, what is something that you can identify right away would be completely counter to what it is that you're trying to accomplish? And I think just kind of like taking a minute to think about those in advance would be a good thing to do, because then when you find yourself doing them, right away, this isn't a good use of my time. This is going to cause more stress for me. And so thank you for saying that. It's got my mind. I'm working. I'm thinking about some activities for my clients.
Yeah, no, but that was a very good analogy for sure. This is going to get you deeper into the hole. And then when you finish finish with the shopping spree, then you're back, maybe even in a worse situation than you started.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I was listening to this powerful motivational message while I was walking. And it's funny because I went from feeling helpless and invincible in a matter of blocks, right? To like, so let me backtrack. And this is like going to those short time avoidance. I was feeling incredibly overwhelmed. And sometimes I know exactly what's stressing me out. But sometimes I'm like, I really don't know why I feel the way I feel, but I'm feeling like overwhelmed. And I was just feeling like, I don't know if I need to cry or scream. And as women, as mothers, especially when we have kids, we often feel like we cannot take the beat we need to cry, to scream, to get out the feeling we need. And so I was like, I need to get this energy out somewhere because I am really like overwhelmed. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go for a run. Now I had already taken my walk for the day, so I didn't have to go on this run, but it's just something that told me like you need to go on a run. Like normally I walk, but I knew I needed to like really work out that energy. I suddenly like wanted to get like a body bag. That's probably another good release. But I go on this walk and I'm listening to my podcast along the way, and it's Eric Thomas. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Eric Thomas. But he's kind of like high energy, like get it, let's, he makes you feel like, you're invincible.
Yeah.
By the time I'm like halfway through this walk, I don't know that I've forgotten about what I was dealing with or feeling, but it just I felt powerful midway through. And then I'm suddenly like noticing like, girl, look at you running. You've been running for 2 blocks. Now I'm congratulating myself. And I'm listening to it and I'm taking notes along the way, and I was able to come back in and get right into work, doing my content creation, doing my planning. And it was like honoring that emotion and saying, sometimes you do need to push through it, and sometimes you do need to honor the emotion you're feeling and find a healthy way to, decompress so that you can, like you said, you're not going to be 100% if you try to push through something that you kind of need, in a mental break. A break from, or as Stephanie said, a brain break. A brain break from. So what are some other things? I think I feel like you kind of touched on like some other short-term activities that would be okay for people to do.
Well, there are 2 other things I might want to add. One is, and you might have heard it, positive self-talk. Because, there is a theory, cognitive behavioral theory, that speaks to how our thoughts trigger emotions, which then trigger behaviors. So if you can get your thoughts in check and not look at things, reframe the situation instead of looking at, oh my gosh, this is so hard. Oh, it's so boring. I'm never going to get this done. Turn that around and saying, yeah, this might be hard, but when I get this done, this is going to make my life so much more efficient in this area. It's going to be so much better. This relationship is going to be on the right track now. So you have to reframe and just kind of turn that thinking around, because once you start thinking from a more empowered sense, like you did when you were on that run, you started feeling empowered, you started feeling energized and good, then your emotions started following suit. And then your behavior, your stride started picking up. So it's really all about what we're entertaining in our minds. And yes, sometimes we do get anxious. So we have to examine our anxious thoughts and examine them for validity. Some of them are just completely like crazy, aren't going to happen, no chance at all. And then some may be valid. And so therefore we should go then go into problem solving mode. So that, okay, well, if this does in fact happen, then what am I going to do next? And when you feel like you have more control over the situation, then you won't be as anxious.
Man, that was so good. Listen, I'm thinking about, I was talking to my sister maybe yesterday or maybe the day before yesterday. I can't remember. I talk to my sisters every day, but I was talking to her sometime this week. And I was telling her, maybe I was talking to my mom. We're a really close family. Talking to one of them.
Yeah.
And I was telling her that I was, telling Jordan that, not to forget to say her prayers at night. And I hadn't had that habit of doing that. And the reason why I started telling her to do that is because, I also had kind of stopped having the habit of praying myself in the morning. And I woke up one morning and I was feeling so anxious, and I listened to some meditation music, and then I just did deep breathing, like all the stuff you're saying. I did some deep breathing and I was starting to feel a little bit better. And then I just started doing affirmation statements. And and what you said just really sat with me because I needed to drown out the voice in my head telling me, reminding me of all the ways I failed, all the ways, I wasn't good enough, all the things, all my negative thinking. I realized I could not shut it up. And I read somewhere that your brain cannot focus on your internal voice if you are externally speaking. So, and I, one of my business coaches forced us to do this exercise, and she had us like saying something, and then she was like, "Now say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6," and then we had to interrupt our thought with something. And she asked, "Could you continue to keep count while you were saying it?" And it was like I lost my count. Like I knew my next number was 5, but I couldn't actively say the sentence and still count 5, 6, 7 in the process. And she said, verbally interrupting your negative thoughts is a powerful way to kind of shift your brain. And so it's not enough to just have affirmation statements and say them inside, but I needed to say them outside so I could that internal thought that I am powerful, I'm confident, I can be better at this. If saying an affirmation statement that you don't believe isn't helpful, but if you tell yourself what is possible, then it's still just as effective. And I just suddenly stopped feeling, and it was like, man, it's so important what we put into our heads. Those motivational messages. I know when I'm feeling like a way, I need to listen to Eric Thomas or maybe Les Brown, or I need to listen to meditation music. The things that we choose to entertain from our social media feeds to our friends and family sometimes, can make us feel a way. And just being more conscious about what we're listening to, even if what we're listening to is ourselves, we need to shut it down, is so, man, that was a big one, man. No, what are you saying to yourself about the stuff? What are you saying to yourself about what you're avoiding? Like, ask yourself that question. What am I telling myself about it? Like, why is it that I'm afraid of this? Why am I so afraid of this what have I told myself in advance was going to happen if I have this conversation?
Right. It's self-talk. You're talking to yourself, whether it's in your head or outside, verbally. But it's also, you also have to have a good level of self-esteem and confidence within yourself to know that you can, in fact, do this. And that's why the affirmations are so important, because if you're out of touch with who you are and what your strengths are and, and what your talents are, then of course, if you feel like you have nothing to offer, or you're not good enough, or you don't believe in yourself at all and have no confidence, and it is going to make the task a lot harder. So sometimes another strategy would be to step back and just start listing all of your best qualities, all of the things that have worked well for you in the past, all of, what positive things others would say about you if you can't think of any of your, on your own. But yes, you have to have self-confidence to be able to approach some of these difficult conversations, tasks, and situate. Yeah.
So I like that. I like that activity. It's almost like a way to challenge your belief. Like, I was listening to Patrice Washington, I think is her last name, and she was talking about the idea of fact versus feeling. And we have a feeling that we're not a good speaker, and a perfect example of this is I've expressed many times that I am terrified of public speaking. I have so much anxiety around it. I question how I feel like I can't articulate myself in the way that I mean to. But when I express that to other people, they always go, "You're so relatable. You're easy to listen to." And if I were doing the activity you just said and like writing down the proof, it would be hard for me to find the proof to support this narrative I have in my head. Exactly, right. And I know that narrative comes from some childhood beliefs that were imposed on me, make me feel like what I have to say isn't important. When you're a kid and people tell you to be quiet, then when you're an adult, you feel like no one wants to hear your voice. But as an adult, I don't have evidence of that to support that mindset. And if you just take the time to really take inventory about that feeling, you might discover like this isn't a fact about me. It's just a feeling.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah. Yep. That's why self-esteem is so important. Right?
This is right in the vein. I'm gonna tell you, I on my in my notebook, I wrote about 2 areas that I really wanted to hit on inside of my business, which was dealing with self-esteem and superhero complexes. I feel like those are the 2 areas that have hurt me the most financially that I really want to kind of address. But self-esteem is one of those real money hindrances. Like if you don't feel confident in yourself, you're not going to apply for that job. You're not going to ask for the pay that you think that you really want because you think you don't deserve it. You're not going to, believe that you deserve a better relationship than the one that's draining you financially. You're not going, there's so many things you're not going to do when you don't believe in yourself. My sister will tell you, I can't tell you how many jobs I've wanted to apply for. And I'm like, but Kim, it say you need a doctorate there. She'd be like, apply for the job. And I'd be like, I can't apply for this job because it need, and this is something I've always admired about her, is she just had this unwavering belief. She does not care what that job description is asking for. She will teach herself whatever it is, and she's going to go in there like she's been doing it all her life. And meanwhile, I'm over here like, selling myself on why you shouldn't hire me. Like they'll bring me in for the interview, and then I'll convince them that they shouldn't hire me. Like,
that's it. Yep. You could talk yourself out of it.
Real problem. And it's a life skill that I admire that quality in her, to be able to put herself out there, because because of that, she's been able to put herself in career opportunity after career opportunity that on paper she should not have.
All right.
So many of us have limited our income earning potential because we are only willing to look at the paper. We are not willing to look outside of, what it is that we do. So we avoid the interview. We avoid even applying for the job. Forget about avoiding the interview. Like we won't even try. We won't even put it in there because we don't want the feeling of they didn't bother us to call us back. So we avoid that moment. So yeah, self-esteem, and my sister. Yep, that's her.
Yes. Oh, there's Rachel. Yes, that's her. She's co-signing. I'm sure some of that oh boy, I'm sure some of that
experience. Like, did you ever manage kids? Then you've been a manager.
Right. Right. Because the job description may ask for a certain skill set, and just because you didn't go to school to learn this particular skill set, like you said, you could start really examining your life, your life experiences, and you can pull from that to come up and match whatever it is they're asking for on that application.
Right. Sure. And you know where that shifts into is imposter syndrome. Like it's another, like you're avoiding, like in this, I've known, since I was young that I wanted to work in personal finance in some way. I didn't always know what career, because I didn't know that this was a career to begin with. But I knew that I was passionate about numbers and money and helping people, and I just needed to find my path. But once I discovered it, I still took years before I leaped out of it, because I was telling myself, well, you didn't have a degree. Who are you to tell somebody? And what I failed to realize until, the last few years when I started my business is my journey from homelessness to home ownership is what qualifies me, because somebody can go to college and acquire this information on paper, but they don't understand the emotional resilience that it takes to pull yourself out of that space, because most people's financial problems are not understanding information. They have a hard time practically applying it because of their emotions, and they don't understand what they can do. And I was sitting here limiting myself, like, I'm not Susie Orman, I'm not Dave Ramsey, who am I? Without thinking that my ideal client doesn't even want to talk to Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman in the first place. They want somebody who grew up in Plainfield, New Jersey, who talk like them, who understand their language, who understand what it feels like to be a single mother. They want someone who understands your journey. They don't care what degrees you have behind. They care, can you help them?
Right.
And I was trapping myself in believing that I had to have all these things and avoiding people were asking me, inboxing me, hey, do you do this? Or when can you help me with this? And I would say, I'm not there yet. I was avoiding it. I was terrified because I didn't want to do harm to anyone. I knew I was good at what I was doing, but at the same time, I felt like I wasn't adequate. So I was avoiding. That was hurting people I love because they didn't have the help they needed. That was hurting my income potential. That was hurting my ability to be a present parent because then I can't be at home and work from home. Like there's so many areas that could be improved if I would get out of my own way and just do what I was afraid to do. What I avoided.
Yep, that fearful and negative self-talk. Absolutely.
Avoided student loans. Brilliant. Not entirely. I did, eventually at least complete my associate's degree. And I did that for free because you guys know I've worked in higher education for over a decade. So I got my degree for free. But yes, student loans is a real problem. Even though I've worked in higher education for over a decade, I always felt like I'm never going to convince you that this is something you should do if this is not a career I feel like you need a degree to do. Because there's some majors where I'm like, you don't need a degree in this. You don't need an associate's degree to be a massage therapist. Certificate, yes. Associate's degree, not so much. But a lot of these schools, they're a business. And I'll leave that there. But I feel like, I know that some of these students have, we're being groomed into believing that you only are worth something if you have a letter behind your name. And if we do, like you said, and write down, is there evidence to prove that? You've got Bill Gates, you've got Steve Jobs, you've got all these people who've defied that model of excellence, and still we are with this belief that we can't pursue what we want because we're missing some insert qualification instead of just putting ourselves out there. So we're avoiding the thing that we are so excited about, so passionate about. We want to do it, but we are just like, who am I?
Yeah, exactly. And there's no validity to most of it. Exactly. So examine the thoughts, people.
I want to get into our rapid fire questions, but before I do, I have two more like heavier questions, and then we'll get into rapid fire, and then we'll wrap it up. So this is such a good conversation. I really feel like there's a lot to unpack here, and there's a lot to unpack here.
Right,
I hope you guys are enjoying this conversation, and you guys have had some aha moments, because I definitely have, and I can't wait to listen to this again. I come out with normally I have my notebook out and I'm furiously writing notes on these interviews, but I can't even gather myself because I'm just like, whew, that's good.
Well, I'm glad you're getting something out of it. I am too. I learn every time I talk to people, every time I'm with a client, because everyone brings something different to the table. It's like, oh, okay.
That's a very good, anybody who understands the value in learning from anything and anyone, man, they are young. Like that young, rich and rooted is you are willing to learn, that you have not shut yourself down from being able to absorb new pieces of information from anyone. Like, we need a part two.
Right. There are no two people alike, and there are no two people who have the same experiences. So every time I sit down with someone new, I'm learning about a different experience that someone's had, or how they've approached that experience, or what their outcome was versus the outcome that someone else might have had with a similar experience. So yeah, it's all good.
That's true. And even in my financial coaching, one of the first things I learned is to not assume why something happened. Like if somebody comes to you and, they're in debt, that, not to assume that it's because they overspend, because it could be because their spouse died or they had cancer, and they had to ask, be curious, to ask questions, because like you said, everybody comes to their plight in life in their own unique way. And just the smallest variance completely shifts how they got there. And that's an important piece to know, to understand why they think the way they do, why they feel the way they do. For those who know me and know me intimately and know like I'm a bubbly personality, they are completely baffled by the shyness because that's not the version of me they engage with. But the piece of the stories that they don't know are the things I heard growing up that have made me feel a way as an adult. And so like, you cannot assume that because you know this piece of about a person or what that looks like.
Exactly.
Introverts aren't who are energy. That's not true. Like there are all kinds of introverts.
Yeah.
There are all kinds. You know, just getting to know more people will kind of illuminate that for you, and it'll probably give you an opportunity to feel less alone in this world because you'll discover that there may be more people just like you too.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Okay, so at what point do you feel like someone should seek a professional to address their avoidance issues? Because, like, you know, initially you could be dealing with avoidance issues and it doesn't really require the intervention of a professional. Like, you know, you realize that you are avoiding working out, and so you know, do some self reflecting, and you know, you can get out there and work that out. But at some point, how do you know that you need a professional like yourself, or even, you know, for you it would be more of the mental emotional, and for me it would be more like a professional intervening to help them take the actions they need to take with their finances. How do you know when a professional needs to come in, or when someone needs to consider?
Yeah, I think professional help should definitely be sought when your maladaptive behaviors and thought patterns are interfering with your activities of daily living. You know, you're not sleeping anymore. You know, you're making simple mistakes at the job, and you can't focus or concentrate. You find yourself, your mood is shifting. You're getting snappy. You know, and you know, there's just little stability. You're emotionally unstable overall. You know, that's when you know something's about to happen. You know, you're overly you're anxious. You know, your thoughts are scattered. You're just having all of these different symptoms that you just cannot control. Then it's always important to talk to someone just to see if they can help you sort everything out. You know, some avoidance issues are just situational. Maybe something happened and then you're just all over the place. Okay, that might be something you can handle on your own, or short-term counseling might help. But some things are deeply rooted and you know, learned cultural and familial behaviors that need to be unlearned can only be done through, you know, processing with someone else. And then there are other things that, you know, are born out of trauma. Certain behaviors and you know, patterns of thinking are born out of traumas that have been buried deep inside of you or unresolved in some kind of way. So you're acting out, or you're unable to kind of, you know, manage your daily living responsibilities, and you just can't get a handle on it.
That's another one I'm gonna have to highlight and highlight in the blog, those activities of daily living. My initial thought when I thought about that was, you know, I worked in insurance for a really long time too, and the activities of daily living is like being able to bathe yourself, clothe yourself, those type of things. But as you explain them, I could understand what you're saying. Like, you know, you're not sleeping. You are constant. Something is stressing you out. If your finances are stressing you out so bad that you wake up stressed out, you're not getting good rest, like even if you know what to do practically, you do need somebody to intervene. If you are, you know, like you said, missing work all the time, not able to, like, you're avoiding work because you're avoiding a negative boss. You're having a hard time communicating that you have that, and you need to have that conversation with HR maybe, but then, you know, you need a therapist to help you overcome that fear of whatever it is you're avoiding, the conversation, because you know it's going to lead to you having to change careers or whatever it is. Man, Kim said not getting out of bed. Yes, like all those.
Yeah. Or overeating, or not having an appetite anymore. Again, these are probably symptoms of some kind of depression, anxiety, which again if you avoid things long enough, it's going to create, heightened anxiety and eventually potentially lead into depression. So that's when you know you need professional help for sure.
Yes. And I the reason why I wanted to do this series is because I wanted to normalize getting professional help.
Mm.
There is such a stigma, and I think that we're slowly kind of evolving out of it, but there's still a stigma about needing professional help or saying that I struggled, and I wanted to be very transparent. That's why I've shared on multiple times. I took a leave of absence to gather myself and choose my mental health, because I wanted other people who might be overwhelmed right now to feel like it's okay.
Mhm.
I was engaging in a very toxic exercise of feeling like I had to hold it all together.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it was like you said, I was avoiding addressing what I needed to address, and it created such a spiral of just, I wasn't able to focus. The things that I was normally quick at, I could just do.
Yeah.
I was like, I cannot organize my thoughts. I can't figure out how to start I was like, something is wrong with my brain. That's how I
Mhm.
knew. I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I need to take a break. I text my boss and was like, I need to clock out, and I don't know when I'm going to be able to clock back in.
Mhm. Yeah.
I can't even
That's
tell
good.
you if it's going to be a couple days, a couple weeks, or a couple months. I need to take that break, and doing it was so liberating for me. It's like my body realized, like, okay, you've given in now. You
Mhm.
can feel everything you need to feel, but it was with the support of a mental health professional for me to be able to unpack all the stuff that I had been, like you said, deep trauma, so many things that you feel like they're completely unrelated to why I'm struggling with this area. You
Mhm.
think that they're unrelated, to be able to unpack all of that so that I could bring myself present, so I could feel more comfortable. And we are comfortable saying, oh, I got my annual visit, but we have not normalized annual mental health care visits. Like, that should be required. You should have to get your pap smear, get your annual physical, and go like, that should be one of your 3 checkoffs for the
Yeah.
year. So, like, you're cleaning at least once a year, but periodically, even in financial coaching, my clients get to a point where they don't need to see me at the frequency they needed to in the
Mhm.
beginning, but that they should still check in with me biannually, at least once a year, because
Mhm.
I noticed that
Yeah.
people veer off points. They happen gradually. You don't see the
Mhm.
line moving.
Right.
So you're
Exactly.
so far off that you don't really know how you got there. And
Mhm.
having those regular health checkups, the purpose of that is to catch something small before it's so bad that it requires so much to correct. And the same is
Right.
true in your mental health. And the
Mhm.
same is true in your finances, for sure. So, thank you, Kimmy. I'm proud of me too. Stephanie says she thinks it should be once a quarter. I agree. I definitely think it should be at least once a year, but I'm with you
Yeah.
on increased frequency. Personally, for me, I feel like it's something that I would want to do at least like every month. Like, I just want to,
Yeah. Right. Right. Because if you're just feeling unbalanced and, the key is balance. We all get upset. We all get overwhelmed. And there are sometimes we're just having a great day and everything's, ups and downs are, typical. But when you are down more than you're up, or you find, or maybe you're in overdrive and you're manic, that's
Mhm.
not healthy either, so you just want to find balance. And if you're having difficulty with that, then there you go.
Whew,
Yeah.
man, this conversation. Okay, last question. I'm like, wait, Kim, we might need a part 2. The last question is, how can a financial coach like myself work together to support our clients in crisis mode, or who are dealing with avoidance in particular? Other than recommending therapy, what are some things that we can be doing during our coaching
Mhm.
to support them in healthier ways?
Well, you're probably already doing this, because I've never honestly been to a financial coach per se, but helping clients set short and long-term goals with clearly defined objectives and action steps, and making sure that you're working at a pace that feels comfortable to them, because every client, I'm sure, is very different.
Mhm.
You could also direct them to supportive online resources like self-help podcasts such as the one you mentioned before, relevant support groups, guided meditation videos, things like that, so they can do the centering and grounding exercises to kind of reel themselves back in, and definitely encourage them to surround themselves with people with common goals. You know, but again, you mentioned the word crisis. I know earlier, or not earlier, but I know in the questioning. But if someone, of course, is experiencing a true mental health crisis, they should be directed to call 911 or go to the nearest emergency room, of course. So as a financial coach, you'll know the difference.
Let me ask you a question about that, because I hear that, like, whenever you call your mental health professional or your doctor's office, they say, if it's an emergency, call 911. And I feel like that's very clear when it's a medical condition, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what an emergency is. My child is choking. She can't breathe. It's life or death. But I don't think that everybody knows what a crisis looks like, when it's a mental health thing, unless it's really, really extreme, right? Mm-hmm. So help me unpack that just a little bit. What are some signs that someone might be in crisis, or I myself might be in crisis mode and need to take emergency action?
Well, maybe it's not apparent to everyone, but if someone is becoming suicidal or homicidal, and that is very much tied into finances for a lot of people, like when the stock market crashed, people lose a job, they go as postal, as they say, and then that is directly tied with finances. And of course it's crisis, when you hear people talk about, they don't want to live anymore, or what's the use, or they're hopeless about a future. Or again, if they're manic and they're just running, and their thoughts are scattered, they're not sleeping for days on end. Maybe they're using substances to self-medicate. That would be a real crisis. But usually 911 is if they're having suicidal or homicidal ideations.
Okay. Ooh, that was good. Thank you so much for breaking that down. Kim added in here, can't breathe.
Yeah, you might be having a panic. Yeah, some people have panic attacks, anxiety attacks, and you really don't know if they're, really having a heart attack or something, or if it is just panic. But, to err on the side of caution, you should definitely go to an emergency room.
Okay. Thank you so much. This was so helpful. So this chop just full of just good. Yeah, this is, I plan to listen to this several times, because I think that there is more to unpack than I was even able to kind of fully digest and make use of. So thank you so much for.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for getting me out of my comfort zone. I don't usually speak to an audience. I'm more comfortable speaking one-on-one. So and I don't know how my eye contact has been, but I have my cheat sheet over here on the right. So sorry, audience, if it looked like I was like fading out or something, but I am nervous, and I'm still a little nervous, but I'm glad to hear that you guys got some good nuggets out of this. And
I am with you. It's okay for you to have your notes. I keep my notes just as a reminder. Like I don't need to refer back to them often, but just kind of make me feel more comfortable that am I veering too far off topic. And I'm okay with that. And
it's your show.
Be doing that for it's my show. So I'll be doing that for the rest of my life. So get on it. My mama said you're never too old to learn.
Never. I agree, Mary.
Okay, so let's get into rapid fire. Are you ready?
Okay, I've never done this before, so give me the rules.
It's easy. It's easy. There's the first thing that comes to your mind when I shoot the question at you is your answer, and that's it. So it's not going to be anything crazy, I promise.
Yeah, I don't want to get in trouble.
Last show that you binge watched and loved?
I don't even want to say.
You get no judgment over here. Did you see my Facebook post?
Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I just find them amusing. I'm sorry.
I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to judge you at all. The show is popular for a reason, because they draw you in with their drama and
right. The humor is what I look for, but okay.
Yes. What is your favorite drink to sip on? It does not have to be alcohol beverage, but it can be.
Yeah, well, wine is a nice sipping drink. But I've really grown to love water these days. I mean, I just like water constantly. And today I have seltzer water because I just need maybe I had a nervous stomach or something. I said, let me just reach for the seltzer.
Yes, I've been loving those. I think they're called bubblies or ahas, maybe. They're like, I guess, a newer seltzer water. They have like the flavor. They don't taste like the seltzer water I remember growing up on. It's helping curb my soda cravings.
Yeah, well, that's why I do it. And you can just get seltzer water and add like, cranberry juice or something. So it tastes like it's sweet, like it tastes like a soda, but it's not.
Yeah. I like your drink. Okay. Who would be the first person to notice if you were avoiding something?
Probably one of my kids. Because I'm retired and I work from home, so it wouldn't be one of my coworkers. Yeah,
which
probably
is more likely to notice.
She'll call me out before anybody else. Yeah.
Peanut, the babies are always the most.
Yeah.
I called her Peanut. I can't.
She's watching you now.
Hey,
she's gonna watch it after the fact. She was one who helped. Oh, there she is. There. Oh,
like I said, Nakia. She thinks Nakia will be the one to call you out.
You like to keep everybody in order in the family. She's the baby, but she keeps everybody in check.
She's a baby boss. My little sister, I would say, is the more responsible. She's the little big, like Kim is the big sister. She actually thinks she's our mom, but Rachel has the emotional maturity of the big sister. She's the one that, like, if we all went out to a club, she's probably the one that's well behaved. Me and Kim, the older we get, the more
I can see
that. Yeah. So yeah. I love my sisters. Okay, finish this sentence. Therapy is what? I'm Valerie. I'm not posting. You put my whole name up there.
Oh, see, I was good. I didn't tell you. Therapy is a great alternative to suffering in silence.
I like that. I think that might be my favorite answer so far.
Okay.
Oh. I like that. Stephanie said essential. Y'all tell me in the comments what therapy is for you. I never asked y'all, but y'all tell me what you feel like it is. I like yours. It's a good alternative to suffering in silence. I feel like that one really resonates with me.
Yeah. There's a lot of people want to put on that mask for everybody. Oh, everything's fine. Everything's great. I got this under control.
Yeah, that's me. I'm that strong friend that, will suffer in silence because, that other area I said I struggle with superhero conflict. I'm trying to save them from having to, emotionally bear the load of what I'm dealing with. But therapist gives me an alternative if I don't feel like I can offload on my family and my friends because I don't want to be a burden to them. At least I can do it with my therapist. So, that was a good one. Kim said, I'm Darlene. Good answer. I'm Valerie. I was going to say necessary.
Oh, yeah, necessary is good.
Kim said, I am a recovering silent sufferer.
Oh, okay. Very good. I'm glad that you're still in recovery. God bless you.
I am so proud of you, and you are. My sister is definitely, it's been her journey that forced me to take faster. Like, I still didn't take action fast enough to sit myself down, take the time off of work to get to mental health care. But it was through her journey where I was very clear of what can happen if you go too long trying to be a strong friend. Because Kim has always been, like I said, she thinks she's our mom. She's always been the one who's taking care of us. Like, making sure we go on vacation. She's booking all the trips. She's doing the itinerary. Yeah. She's, and we think that she's okay because she's really good at looking like she's okay. Right. And I watched the spiral for her, and I realized, like, as strong as she is, if that can happen, you know what I mean? It can happen to me. And I don't want her, I don't want what she went through to be for nothing. So for me, what she went through was to show me what not to do. Period. Like, avoid that. Avoid something, avoid that.
Right. And we all have right. And we all have those family and friends that are strong like that and we lean on. So everybody check on that strong friend. Check on them.
Check on your today. Whoever you think is your strong friend in your clique, your crew, and your family, send them a message today and just check on them. Whoever it is.
Yeah, Darlene brings another good point. Once you share, you realize other people are suffering too, because once you become vulnerable with other people, then they feel comfortable being vulnerable with you. And then you realize, oh, wow, I didn't realize you were going through that.
And that was the reason why I changed the platform to this way, is I wanted to free people to be able to have tougher conversations through my own vulnerability, through sharing the things that I was embarrassed to share because I thought they invalidated me, that I discovered later on my strengths, are the things that people need to hear to feel confidence that they can get out of something, that they're not alone. I had a friend tell me very recently, she reached out to me about something and she said, I never really had a very deep conversation with you before. I would have never thought. And I see you on social media. I see you in this way. And I never thought about it in this way. And she said, thank you for sharing that with me, because I felt alone. And I was like, woo.
Wow, that's a blessing.
Yeah, so like that's not about me. That was for her. Like, you think it's share for you, but you might need to share for somebody else. Like, you think, like, I don't want to share because I don't want to burden somebody. No, you might be helping someone by telling someone and being honest. Oh, Lord. Okay. We supposed to be a rapid fire. We still got a few more rapid fire questions. Okay.
Oh, I just want the audience to know that she gave me some prepared questions, and then now these rapid fires are going to kick me off guard. All right, but go ahead.
Okay. Then I tell you, none of them are crazy. Okay. Describe yourself as and listen, your nieces and your sisters are on this thread. So they're going to know if this is true. Describe yourself. Well, your nieces won't be able to tell you, but your sisters can tell me. Describe yourself as a teenager in 3 words.
Oh my gosh. I know Valerie's watching. She'll say sneaky. I was definitely quiet. But I like to be social, if that makes sense. Like you said, I was introverted, but I still like to be around people and still do. I don't know if that's a description.
One more. You need 3 words.
Well, that was a description. Okay. I did say sneaky, right?
Okay. So, but you say Valerie would say sneaky. Would you say
well, you had to be back, when you're a teenager, you can't like put it all out there.
Somebody tag grandma in this post.
It's too late now. But I guess I was curious about a lot of things.
Okay. I'll take it. I'll accept it. I'm Val. Stephanie is trying to get on Valerie to spill the tea. And she's trying to get on Darlene to spill the tea about you. What? Yes.
We can do this offline, Stephanie.
What 3 words how would they describe Asanya as a teenager? Okay. What book influenced you the most?
Well, I'd have to say the Bible. That's a book that I still read on a regular basis. Honestly, to tell the truth, I don't get a lot of time to read, like, for leisure. I'll reference my my professional books to get information, to brush up on some things. But no, the Bible absolutely keeps me grounded and rooted. I'm not just saying that to be saying it, but it's so true.
Do you see your sister's
time? Oh, okay. Smart scheming and experimenting.
I like those.
Okay. Well, I'm glad she thinks I was smart.
You are. All of y'all are. I mean, y'all all literally were teachers. Um, um, yeah, so I like that. I would say that's a good one. My mother would probably answer that very same thing.
It's the truth for me. It is. I read regularly, but there's no other book that I can say I read regularly. And honestly, I haven't read like a novel for, I just don't have time to read. Sorry.
No, I get it. I feel the same way. I ask this question because I like to discover new books, but I like you, I don't have time to physically read a book as often, but I listen to audiobooks. So when I do like my morning run or if I'm cleaning, then that's when I get to listen to audiobooks. So if I can, sometimes I can't find it in audiobook format and I daydream about being able to really read the book. They're just sitting on the bookshelf. But audiobooks, yes. On my drives to New Jersey, I usually can get a good 2 really good books. Like that's my favorite part of the commute is I can get some good books in during my commute to New Jersey. I know some people can't do that. They feel like they fall asleep, but no, I'm completely engaged. It doesn't make me tired. Okay. So my mom will probably tell me to go ahead and read the book that you recommend. Probably will tell me Proverbs.
Full of wisdom. No, when you're a therapist and when you're a coach, you really need wisdom, and that's where it comes from. I'm telling you, you'll get more wisdom.
Okay, mommy, if you're watching this, I'm going to read Proverbs. I guess that my mother would tell us to read Proverbs for the day because there's 31 books in Proverbs, and so there's a chapter for every day of the month. And when we would get in trouble, my mom would be like, "Did you read Proverbs for the day?" It's Proverbs chapter 7. So, just like that, right?
Yeah,
so now, anytime my mom tells us to read Proverbs for the day, we associate it with we've done something wrong. So my mom would be like, "Have you read Proverbs today?" I'd be like, "What do I do?" And she'd be like, "Nothing. Just read Proverbs." But you know what? That was a good lesson for me because as a result, I never made reading, just in general, a punishment. Yeah. I didn't want her to associate with me telling her to go read a book with she has to do this because she's in trouble. And I only got that lesson because my mother she didn't intend to make Proverbs feel like a punishment, but that's what we associate. If you had to write in the summer. Okay. What?
That's funny. I know what's going on in the Lewis household.
You know how my parents were. We had Bible study on Wednesday nights. If you were a friend of ours and you were, I won't say crazy enough or foolish enough, but if you happened to get trapped, if you were still at my house at 7 o'clock, you were staying for Bible study. Like it wasn't an option. You better know that on Wednesdays, if you don't go home at 6 o'clock, Genesis, whatever it is, we having Bible study today.
Well, we always had a meal with it, so that was all right.
That part. And then you know what? I feel like that's why half of our friends endured. My mama was gonna make you breakfast and she was gonna make you dinner. She was also gonna make you do some chores. Kim said it started with grandma.
Probably.
Oh, the Bible studies. You know what? You're right, Kim. I'm almost too little to remember, but I remember grandma and my mom. Like I'm young, and gosh, whoever hosted Rachel's baby shower. I can't think of what her name is now. Mm-hmm. I feel like they all used to come over and do Bible study on. We veering off topic, but yeah, that grandma is the reason why we have Wednesday Bible study. So my friends, that's who's responsible for it. What's the best piece of advice you have received?
Listen, I've lived quite many years, so it's really hard to say. I've gotten a lot of advice. Put God first. How about that?
Okay.
Can't go wrong with that.
I like that. It's got me thinking about my mom's favorite Bible verse. Kim, you tell me if I'm wrong. In I need to go back to church. I'm like, I'm about to get this Bible verse completely wrong. My mom said Martha Young. That's exactly who I was thinking of.
Oh, Martha Young. Okay.
It, in all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. See, Mom?
Yeah.
Train up a child. They won't forget it. They might struggle with it, but they won't forget it completely. Okay. Next question. Where was the location of the vacation you had the most fun at?
Vacation. I probably somewhere in California with my cousins.
Okay.
More than likely.
I like California. That's nice. What part of California did you go to?
Inglewood.
Like, oh, okay.
Well, that's where they were living. But I don't know. We had some. It's usually surrounding a family reunion. So, I mean, my mom would want me to say Union Springs, Alabama, but I'll see California.
My mama has provided us with the exact Bible verse to find.
Romans 8:28.
In case y'all needed a biblical reference for that one. The Franklin family reunions are the best. I wanted to go to y'all California one, but I didn't get to go there. But Hawaii was
that was Valerie's 50th birthday, right? I was buying. I could not afford to go.
To be honest with you, I'm not sure that I could afford to go either. I think let me tell you how crafty I am. I did a timeshare while I was there because they were going to give you $100 or $200 to do it at a time. I'll happily sit through this time. Because Hawaii was expensive. Me and Jessica for like one day. We had been eating the hotel food. Well, not hotel. We were staying in a Halekoa resort, and they had really good food. But we were kind of like sick of eating their food. We were like, let's go to IHOP. It's just IHOP. But IHOP's not expensive. It's like $3.95, $4.95. They was charging like $10 for pancakes. We gathered our purse and slid out that booth. Not today. In Hawaii, I spent no less than $100 a day. A day.
Ooh.
That's how Hawaii is. Hawaii and Alaska, I think, are the most expensive states in America. Whoo, baby, get your coins together before you go there. Okay. So California is expensive too, guys. So if you want to go to her favorite destination, gather your coins for California as well. Where would you build your dream home?
We've gone through this a million times, my family and I'm a Jersey girl, so it's going to have to be somewhere in Jersey. I'm not leaving. I had contemplated, I'm not going anywhere, but maybe somewhere down the shore, by the shore, because they've got some beautiful shore houses down there.
I can get with that. When people ask me why I don't ever want to move back, I'm like, I live in Virginia Beach. Like I live, Hampton, you're no more than 15 minutes from a beach in any direction.
Right.
I'm an Aquarius. I love the water with all my heart. Like, so I feel you on that. I haven't been to the shore in forever. I feel like the last time I went, Aunt Valerie probably took us, or maybe I went with Jessica.
Always round
taking us on a shore trip. So I can't remember the homes. I just remember the tolls, and I didn't remember until here when someone from back home asked me, "Can you go to the beach for free?" And I thought it was the weirdest question. And I was like, "For free?" And it was like, you pay to go on the shore. And I was like, "You're right. I do remember us going through tolls to get to."
Well, not just the tolls, but you do have to pay for a wristband or a badge, as they call them, to get on the beach these days. So I don't know if it was always like that. It was probably cheaper then, but now it's like $8.
I'm just going to stay here where the beaches are free and the parks include things like paintball and canoeing for $2. Like,
ridiculous.
I mean, you pay to park on the oceanfront now. Don't let me lie. You pay, I mean, you might be able to park on a street far from somebody, but you're going to pay $5 to $25 depending on the time of the year. Like if you're coming down for something in the Waterfest, then you got to pay for parking. But there's a lot of little beaches that are not like that, and I prefer to beaches because I actually want to enjoy the beach. I only go to the ocean front because that's a tourist trap. I only go there when there's like an event. So yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, last question. A life without fierce vision is what? Fill in the blank.
A life without fierce vision is a life that's pretty mediocre.
I agree.
And I don't want to judge. There's nothing wrong with mediocre. Some people just want to play it safe, but having a fierce vision alludes to excitement and wonder and adventure.
I like that though. Everybody's mediocre isn't the same. Like my mediocre may not be your mediocre and vice versa, but like for you, your definition of mediocre, like you're not living your best life.
Yeah, you're just settling for the mundane or what's expected, or
you're not even willing to envision it, to dream about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Aunt Darling, a life without purpose.
Oh, there you go. I couldn't think on my feet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aunt Sonia. I really had so much fun talking to you. I really could have had a conversation forever. It went way longer than it was supposed to. But I feel like this conversation is really, really important. And I really hope that, I thank you guys for staying on as long as you did. I know that a lot of you guys we're on the whole 1.5 hours that we've been talking. And I really, really hope that you found this conversation valuable, even if it's not for you. Like, we all deal with avoidance issues at some point in our life, but it may not be something you're struggling with right now, but you may know somebody who's dealing with it. You may have not realized they were dealing with it, but now you recognize what that looks like and can maybe help a peer, a colleague, a loved one, your child, kind of cope through avoidance issues a little bit more. And so hopefully this conversation has been helpful for you. It has been extremely helpful to me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And God bless you. Thank you for making it easier than I thought it was going to be. And thank you for your input. You've, given me a lot of fresh ideas and a different way of looking at things as well.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so excited, guys. I am going to make sure that I get this episode on the podcast, whether I got to break it up or put it in full. I'm going to make sure this podcast becomes an article in case you like to read through it, because there are so many nuggets and all of them need to be unpacked. This could probably be broken up into multiple different things to be able to unpack. This was just so valuable. I have so many ideas of how to help my clients, go through this process and stop avoiding things that are hurting their finances, whether it's hurting them from gaining income or causing them to lose income as a result. So thank you. Jessica said, great discussion.
Yes. Nice. Thank you everyone who came on to support. Great.
Yes, I knew the family was going to show up and show out. Like, why
can't they always do. They always do.
Our family is thorough.
Yes.
I texted Jessica earlier, was like, hey, I'm interviewing Aunt Sonia today. She said, I already know it was in a family text message chat.
Yes, I did a little advertisement. I was like, oh.
I said, I love us. Okay, thank you. You have a wonderful night. Hopefully it's not too late and you still have time to unwind. I'm going to rewind and
you're going to start over again. Yeah, your glass is empty, isn't it? The bottle is empty.
The bottle's not. Oh, see, trying to get people
from the other side.
No, you see how she's trying to play me? I'm not a lush.
Like Benny. An hour and a half. Yeah, okay. And it wasn't.
I've been putting a little bit in the cup too. I've been putting a little bit.
Okay.
Crystal said, great information, very insightful. I'm so glad that this was helpful and insightful for you, Crystal. Thank you.
Thanks for joining, Crystal. She's a diehard too.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you again. Have a wonderful night. Thank you, guys. I will see you guys next Sunday at 7. If you guys are not already following my page, please click the like page. Please share it. Please encourage other people to share it. Again, if you have not found the Fierce Vision podcast, please look into your podcast. It's almost on all the platforms. I'm still waiting for iTunes to approve me, but find the Fierce Vision podcast. I only have one episode up right now, but I plan to have all of these up there very soon. We just started last week. So thank you in advance for all of your support. I know that together we will impact so many people in our lives. This is definitely not just about me, and it's definitely not just about you and what you bring to these conversations every week, what you bring to our financial group, which is the Fierce Visionary Lounge. If you're looking for it, is so valuable. As Aunt Sonia said, everybody has something to add. Your experience is meaningful. It's worth something. Please do not avoid contributing because you have something important to tell. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.